1.
Hey, it's Coach Lake here. So we're going to do lesson 3. This is on managing stress. All right, so here we go. So the objective, there are 4 of them. To explain the purpose of emotions and how they happen. To describe different levels of basic human needs. To explain how mental health affects physical health. And to identify healthy ways to cope with stress. That's the main one. So introduction. There are several emotions related to stress. It helps to understand these emotions and how the body reacts to some of them. So, may want to remember this. What emotions are linked to stress? I'm glad you asked. Why don't I list them? The emotions most commonly linked with stress are fear, anger, grief, and relief. And we're going to look in detail at those 4: fear, anger, grief, and relief. Fear, number 1. Fear is a feeling that causes a person to want to escape. When something important to your survival and well-being is threatened, you feel fear. Something that might cause you physical or emotional pain can be frightening. Your body reacts to fear by muscles tightening, your hands may shake, you may bite your fingernails, you may feel like crying. So what do you do to deal with fear? You're going to try to change the situation. You need to identify what's causing the fear and or talk about this fear. Talking with a trusted person is a healthy way to keep you from bottling it up. So an emotion related to fear is anxiety or fearful concern. When you are nervous about a test, you may feel anxious, but you do not really feel fear because the test cannot hurt you physically. But you may worry about getting a low grade. The best way to deal with anxiety, on the other hand, is to identify its source and take effective action. So the second thing is anger. Anger is a strong feeling of displeasure. Strong anger, however, can lead to the desire to attack or be aggressive. Aggression is any action that intends harm to someone else. Frustration. Something you want often causes aggression. When frustrated, you may feel aggressive. Aggression is a common impulse, but it's not an effective response to frustration. Aggression is likely to cause more problems than it solves. When you are angry, you have a complaint about someone or something. The best way to express your anger is to say why you are angry and what you want to happen. You can do that without accusing or blaming another person by using I messages. For example, you could say, I feel hurt, Mr. Lake, when you yell at me and when you tease me. Talking about your complaint is a more successful way to handle anger, and aggression is not. So I statements, that way you're not causing blame to the other person, like this is the way I feel. Uncontrolled anger keeps you from thinking through your decisions clearly. Working out a solution and talking about your feelings helps manage anger. Staying calm is another way to control anger. Self-talk helps, positive self-talk. Taking deep breaths, in, out, taking deep breaths. Anyway, doing something physical can redirect anger. So I give you guys physical stuff all the time. You should never feel angry. All of the things above can help you think more clearly and consider what to do when you feel angry. The third thing is grief. Grief is a common source of stress that you cannot fight or escape. You experience loss when a relationship breaks up, a good friend moves away, or someone dies. The feelings you experience after a loss are part of grief or sorrow. Grief can be a mixture of several emotions, including anger, fear, anxiety, and guilt. Okay, something you might want to write down. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Grief is a natural process. There are 5 reactions to grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Once again, there are 5 reactions to grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial is pretending a loss has not occurred. Anger is feeling angry about the loss. Bargaining is like wishing for a second chance. Depression is a feeling of deep, deep sadness. And then acceptance, accepting something over which you have no power or control. The length of time is different for each person. Also, each person will go through the reactions in any order or might go back and forth among them. So talking about the painful emotion felt from that loss is really probably one of the best things you can do. If someone is going through depression or the grieving process, the best thing you can do is listen and offer support. Okay, and then the fourth thing, relief. Relief is a light, pleasant feeling people experience when stress is gone. Sometimes stress returns, then you only feel relief for a little while. Learning to deal with stress brings relief that lasts. Relief is an emotion you can work to achieve. That's the good news. So how can stressful emotions be handled? First, you need to understand all emotions are normal. Emotions are neither good nor bad. How you handle an emotion is what's important to your mental health. To be mentally healthy, it helps to pay attention to emotional signals and take positive action. When you identify your needs, you can determine how best to meet them. Sometimes all you need to do is ask. Being direct works best. Being quiet and shy and hoping others will guess what you need usually doesn't work. You may need to work harder to get what you need. What are some ways to relieve stress? Coping is finding a way to deal with or overcome stress or other problems. Coping with the situation relieves the stress for the time being and brings relief. You will always have to deal with problems and emergencies, and coping is a mechanism you can use to deal with those problems and emergencies. So, hint, hint, wink, wink. When an emotion signals a need, the healthiest response is to cope. To cope with a problem, you need to do three things. Identify the causes of the problem, decide on a way to solve the problem, and carry out your plan as a way to cope. Coping helps you feel better and relieves anxiety. When you succeed in solving a problem, you relieve stress. Learning to cope with one problem may help you in dealing with other problems. You can learn from your successes as well as your mistakes. That's important. So experience over time also helps to relieve stress. Often when people try something new, they find it stressful. So the more you do things and gain experience, the less stress will be associated with those things. Here's some other actions that can relieve stress and promote mental health. Hint, hint, there's 9 of these. You may only need to know 3 of them. Pay attention to your emotional signals. Identify what you need. Make sure your expectations are reasonable. Be willing to take responsibility for meeting your needs without waiting for others to try to please you. Ask for what you need. Determine how to get the rest of what you need honestly and fairly. Seek help through talking with trusted individuals. Use positive self-talk and encourage yourself. Engage in physical activity. Thank you, Mr. Lake. Plan ahead. All right, so that is our lesson. You should be able to understand the differences between anger, coping, fear, grief, and relief. So anger is a feeling that causes a person to want to escape. Coping is dealing with and overcoming problems. Fear is the feeling you have after a loss. Grief is a strong feeling of displeasure. And relief is a feeling after stress is gone. All right, so this is the lesson. Do your assignment. I gave really good hints on what you need to know and remember. Please get this done. It's your last assignment of this quarter, and good work. Ciao.